defense range right now, but it may or may not come later. I guess it depends. The dev team hasn't said anything on this yet, but as it isn't implemented, it most likely won't come. Seeing as it had quite a lot of problems with range in Dungeon Defenders 1, the chances are low. And anyways, as you upgrade your towers, they will get more range, so it's most likely made that way, so towers will have more range by upgrading them instead, thereby making you want to upgrade towers rather than just spam a lot of towers. And over to the specs. You have Concussive Chi, which each time you use your secondary attack, which is the range attack, you will have a chance to stun enemies for 1 second. This will stop enemies in the way, but yeah, it's 1 second, and you usually see a lot of enemies come at a time, and this won't work on, for example, ogres, and ogres is most likely the only thing you will want to use them on. So, not worth putting skills into exactly. Dragon Stance, each time you use a melee attack, you will charge up the damage for the next one time you use range attack. Crane Stance works the same way, just opposite. Each time you use range attack, you will charge up the next one normal melee attack. Considering how you do melee attacks in yeah, you use them in combo, so each time you use melee attack you use 3 attacks in a row, for example. This won't really do much damage, seeing as you can't charge them or anything like that. So, in my opinion at least, it won't really have much of an effect, and those skills isn't really worth it. Then we're over to the skill who I think is worth it. This increases the lightning damage of the lightning trap. It doesn't increase the DPS, it works like having a critical hit, by giving a chance to deal more damage. Like for example, you have a if you have a 50% of increasing damage by 100%, it would work like having a critical hit rate of 50%. So stacking off points into this one is quite a good idea. Next one is boost blockade health, which in theory gives you more health to the wall blockade by having the boost aura around it. So this would make boost aura work better on walls by making walls have more health. Next is empowering calm, which makes the sanity aura also increase hero damage. The Serenity aura usually only heals heroes around, so it's considered completely useless, but by combining it with Empowering Calm, so it also increases hero damage, you can make it actually be worth using, since seeing as the heroes is actually quite strong in Dungeon Defenders 2, and you will do a lot of micromanagement. Okay, over to the next hero. We have the Squire. And yeah, stats is of course the same, so let's go straight over to the specs. Okay, next one being the Squire. First, to start out with, we have a riposte, which yeah, as it says, it gives a chance to return damage when you are being hit. Combine this with your provoke skill, and all the enemies will attack you. So yeah, if you have 10 enemies attacking you at the same time and 10% chance of being hit, 10 enemies hitting you at the same time, it's a good chance that one of those will get damage equal to a certain percent of your hero damage back. So in theory it can be quite a nice skill if you have put a lot of points into it. Next on, Fight Me Not. Again, a skill that uses your provoke skill. The more skills you put in this, the more damage the defenses will do to the enemies that is attacking the Squire. So if you provoke, for example, an ogre, that Ogre will take far more damage from your defenses. So using your square as a tank, you can win over, for example, bosses far faster. And therefore this is a skill that you will want to use in, for example, boss fights. You will want that player which uses the square to fight the boss and provoke it. Next one, Vengeance. This is about Spike Blockade. On the next attack, a certain percent of the damage taken by the Spike Blockade will be received. So for example, if an enemy does 10% or if an enemy does 100 damage to the defense, the next enemy will receive 10 damage back. Okay, if you for example have an ogre doing dealing 1000 damage to it, to say it that way, and it is a 10% health pack, any small mob attacking it will die most likely, to say it that way. Seeing as an ogre attacking the small mob would most likely kill it. Going to shiny spikes, this is also a spike blockade effect. It has a certain chance each time the spike blockade attacks of stunning enemies for 2 seconds. Yeah, it says what they are on itself. This one is powerful spears. Makes the ballistator far better because it gives a certain chance that all targets pierced for the next 4 seconds will take full damage. So if you for example have fast attack speed, then this skill will be extremely OP, to say it that way, seeing as you will always do full pierce damage to all enemies in that case. Next one, shield strength. Using your secondary attacks gives you makes you be able to take more damage, and adding into this skill makes you block even more damage. You won't be immortal, but will take far less damage. So in theory you can provoke enemies, then you shield block and just stay there and let them hit you, while the defenses attack them and does extra damage with the 5-minute skill. So yeah, a human wall in other words. Next one is the apprentice, so I'm just going to have to go over to the hero manager to show you. First I have to create an apprentice hero. That's what, not an ace name, but yeah, same thing. And we'll just drop it here. And go to the forge, hero deck, and swap to the apprentice, and over to the specs. So, the apprentice. Okay, reduced cooldown. It says itself, it will make the skills Tornado and Arcane Volley, you will be able to use them faster. And considering how, for example, Tornado throws enemies up into the air, combining this with Anti-Air is a nice tactic of getting enemies killed faster and yeah, just moving down big lanes and having a good crowd control. This one, Meg Specs, increases your mana generation per second. No heroes have any mana generation regeneration usually, so this means that Apprentice is the only one with infinite of mana, and by combining this with the different skills you will have quite a good combat hero actually. Next one, Blockade Boom. It returns a certain percent of the damage taken for the Arcane Barrier on the next explosion, and it's one explosion every 25% of the damage taken of max damage for the Arcane Barrier. So yeah, in theory it will kill all, it will do a lot of damage to all enemies that has hit it on the next explosion. Next one is the Freeze. It's a certain percent chance that on every end of the channel for the Frostbite Tower, it will also freeze the enemy, not only slow it. It will work the same way as if the enemy was drenched. So in theory, if you use geyser traps, then this will not be as useful. Next one is the double fireball tower. It gives a certain percent that will do a second fireball with the tower, which in theory is very nice indeed. So if you are defense hero, this might be the one you want to look at. Next one is early knockup. This makes the Earth Shatter Tower work the same way as Geyser Tower, by knocking enemies up into the air. But it will have a larger splash, it will be ranged, and yeah, it's just very nice, to say it that way. If you don't have a Huntress, it's a nice way to get enemies knocked into the air too. So yeah, it's a useful spec. In theory, I would say that double fireball and earthly knockup is the ones you will use if you are defense hero, and you will most likely put a couple of stats into mage specs just to get infinite mana, and maybe reduced cooldown if you want to use the combat skills more often, seeing as you have infinite mana. So yeah, that was the 4 heroes and the tavern. So yeah, I think I'll say myself finished with this video for now. In the next one I will introduce the first level and just how battle works. So please stay tuned and yeah, join me for the next one if you still want to stay. So next one will be the first video of gameplay. So smell you later.